Welcome to another episode of People Up Hot. So, imagine being a teenager, right? Just sitting in your bedroom figuring out these pop covers.
Right, just a normal kid.
Exactly. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, you are handpicked by literally the absolute biggest pop star on the planet to be her protege.
Which is, a dream come true for anyone.
Oh, 100%. But then, fast forward a bit, and you land the most iconic movie role of a generation.
Yeah.
And instead of just universal applause, you are hit with this crushing, highly organized wave of global, racially motivated backlash.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
So how do you survive the weight of those massive expectations, protect your own peace, and then emerge on the other side as this completely independent solo powerhouse?
I mean, that's the defining question of her entire career, really. And our mission for this deep dive is to figure out exactly how she did it, because the narrative we are looking at today, it is not just a biography of a Disney princess.
No, definitely not.
Right. It's a masterclass. It's a masterclass in how a Gen Z artist navigates the absolute extremes of modern fame, the digital scrutiny, and this really intense personal adversity, all without breaking.
Yeah, and to put this into perspective for you listening, her career trajectory is kind of like, well, it's like skipping the minor leagues entirely.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, because normally an artist gets to make their early mistakes, their bad albums or awkward live shows, in private, or at least in relative obscurity, the minor leagues.
Yeah, where nobody's really watching.
Exactly. But she was drafted straight to an all-star team. She's taking her very first professional at-bats in front of the Manhattan Supreme Court and Beyonce. There was just zero margin for error.
Which is exactly why we have to look way past the surface-level achievements today.
So true. So I have to ask you guys listening, when you hear the name Halle Bailey, do you immediately think of The Mermaid? Or the Beyonce protege? Or maybe the recent tabloid headlines?
Because the real story here is how she balances all three of those identities at the exact same time.
Yes, exactly. And for those who might only know the broad strokes, Halle Lynn Bailey is a 26-year-old American singer-songwriter, guitarist, and actress. She was born in Atlanta back in the year 2000.
And her major claims to fame are, they're substantial. She broke out as one half of the Grammy-nominated musical duo Chloe x Halle.
Right.
Then she became a massive global household name, starring as the live-action Ariel in Disney's The Little Mermaid. And now she has fully established herself as a solo artist. She literally just dropped her highly anticipated debut solo album, Love, or something like it, in October of 2025.
Yeah, and it's so easy to look at her 2025 solo success and just assume she was like manufactured in a lab by some corporate entertainment machine.
Oh, totally. People assume that all the time.
Right. But if you look at how she actually started, you realize the whole Disney Princess label completely ignores her extreme DIY roots. She was raised in Mableton, Georgia, before moving to Los Angeles in mid-2012 with her older sisters Ski and Chloe and her younger brother Branson.
And the entertainment industry was basically always the goal for that family.
Yeah, she actually began acting at age 3. She eventually landed minor roles in films like Joyful Noise and the Disney television film Let It Shine.
Right, so the acting was there super early on. But the musical origins, that really reveals how she built her foundation. Her father, Doug Bailey, he acted as her and Chloe's co-manager, right? And he started teaching them to write songs when Halle was just 8 years old.
Wow, just 8.
Yeah, 8. And they didn't have, a whole team of industry producers handing them pre-written pop tracks. They literally learned to play their instruments by watching YouTube tutorials.
See, that is the detail that always sticks with me. Understanding song structure, figuring out chord progressions on a guitar from a grainy YouTube video at 11 years old.
It's wild.
It really is. It builds a completely different kind of musician.
It does, and it connects perfectly into this broader picture of modern stardom. Halle represents a generation that realized they could entirely bypass the traditional music industry gatekeepers.
Yeah, just skip the whole line.
Exactly. They launched a YouTube channel, took their talent directly to the public, and ironically, by ignoring the traditional gatekeepers, they managed to capture the attention of the ultimate one.
The ultimate gatekeeper. We are, of course, talking about Beyonce.
Yes, Beyonce.
So in the early 2010s, Halle and Chloe were uploading these really complex, harmonically dense pop covers. And it was their cover of Beyonce's Pretty Hurts that just went massively viral.
Which is such a bold move.
Right. Covering Beyonce for Beyonce is a massive flex. But the execution was so flawless, it landed them an appearance on The Ellen Show in April 2012. And that eventually led them to win Season 5 of Radio Disney's The Next Big Thing in 2013.
And that kind of viral momentum, it translates into real-world industry power very quickly. By May 2015, the sisters were in talks to sign with Parkwood Entertainment.
Which is the management entertainment company founded by Beyonce herself.
Exactly. But the mechanics of signing a viral teen act are incredibly complex. Because both sisters were minors in 2015, their contracts couldn't just be signed in some boardroom. They actually had to go through the Manhattan Supreme Court for approval.
Wait, which just feels so dramatic, right?
Yeah.
Having a judge bang a gavel on a record deal?
It sounds like a movie.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes total sense when you look at the history of the entertainment industry. The courts are involved because of child labor laws. It often stems from the old Coogan Act precedents.
Right, which were designed to protect minors from predatory industry practices.
Exactly. The state has to ensure that the kids aren't being exploited and that their earnings are placed into protected trusts.
And the earnings on the table here were very significant. The court documents detailed that they would receive at least $60,000, with advances that could total almost $1 million if they delivered at least 6 albums. So they officially signed a 5-year contract in 2016.
And Parkwood didn't just sign them and, put them on a shelf to develop in secret. They threw them straight into the deep end.
Oh, yeah. They were publicly dubbed Beyonce's prodigies.
Yep. They made a high-profile cameo in Beyonce's iconic Lemonade visual album in 2016, right in the all-night intro. They were opening for the European leg of the Formation World Tour and later the U.S. leg of the On the Run 2 tour.
Just massive, massive exposure.
Unbelievable. Plus, Halle was starring as Skylar Forster in the hit sitcom Grownish from 2018 until the character graduated at the end of season 4.
And they were doing all of this while releasing critically acclaimed music. I mean, their 2018 debut studio album, The Kids Are Alright, earned 2 Grammy nominations, including Best New Artist.
Which is huge for a debut.
Then they followed it up in June 2020 with Ungodly Hour, which debuted at number 16 on the Billboard 200, and it sold 24,000 units in its first week.
Okay, I have to push back on the narrative surrounding this era, though.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, it's often framed as this pure fairy tale, like the ultimate Cinderella story of being plucked from obscurity by the queen of music. But being labeled Beyonce's successor at 15 isn't just an honor. It is an impossible standard.
Oh, for sure. It's incredibly heavy.
Didn't that actually put a massive target on her back?
Yeah.
The psychological weight of having NPR call you Beyonce's first true musical successor means every single vocal run, every live performance, every outfit is being judged against a 20-time Grammy winner.
That pushback is entirely justified. I mean, the pressure is just crushing. You're trying to figure out who you are as a young adult while operating inside this pressure cooker of legacy expectations.
Right.
But what makes Ungodly Hour such a masterclass is how they handled that pressure. They didn't try to make a Beyonce album, they pivoted.
Yeah, they really found their own lane.
They did. That album marked a distinct sonic shift from this kind of quirky, child-friendly indie pop to a much more mature, atmospheric R&B. The vocal arrangements were incredibly sophisticated.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
And the lead single, Do It, went viral not because of who their mentor was, but because the tight harmonies and that structural hook were just undeniable. It actually became their first entry on the Billboard Hot 100.
I mean, they were performing the national anthem to the NFL kickoff. They were getting presented with the Rising Star Award by Beyonce at the Billboard Women in Music ceremony. They had essentially conquered the music industry's expectations.
Completely.
And just as Halle proves she can carry all that weight, she steps into an entirely different kind of crucible. Because in July 2019, Disney announced that Halle Bailey had been cast as Ariel in the live-action remake of the 1989 animated classic, The Little Mermaid.
And this is such a fascinating pivot point in Hollywood history. If you look at Disney's playbook for live-action remakes up to that point, like movies like Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella, the studios demanded these carbon copy visual matches to the 2D animation.
Yeah, they were very strict about it.
Exactly. They often prioritized an actor's look over their actual vocal power.
Right, like Emma Watson looks exactly like the cartoon Belle, even if she isn't a powerhouse Broadway vocalist.
Right, exactly.
But Halle's audition completely shattered that playbook. The director, Rob Marshall, said she possessed a rare combination of spirit, heart, youth, innocence, and substance. He explicitly stated that her singing brought him to tears and set the bar so high no one else could match it.
Which is incredible praise.
It is. Her vocal undeniableness literally forced executives to rewrite their franchise casting rules.
But of course, the internet reaction was not focused on her vocal abilities. Her casting triggered an immediate, intense, and racially charged backlash.
It was so toxic.
A very loud, highly toxic segment of the internet mobilized, claiming that casting an African-American actress was somehow unfaithful to the original animated character.
Which, I mean, it's an absurd argument on its face when you were talking about a mythical half-fish creature.
Right. It makes no sense.
It makes zero sense.
Right.
But the absurdity doesn't lessen the psychological toll.
Yeah.
If I were 19 years old and the entire globe was debating my right to exist in a movie role, tracking my every move on social media, I would probably log off and hide.
Most people would.
But Halle's response was remarkable. When she was asked about the cultural firestorm, she simply said, "I don't pay attention to the negativity."
And Disney, to their credit, didn't attempt to placate the trolls or issue some watered-down PR statement. Their defense was wonderfully blunt. They simply stated, Ariel is a mermaid. Period.
Boom. Which perfectly set the stage for the film's release in May 2023. And, I mean, she completely silenced the critics.
She absolutely did.
The film earned massive critical praise, specifically for her performance. She performed the soundtrack, she snagged nominations for the Saturn Award, and was nominated for the People's Choice Award for Female Movie Star of the Year. She didn't just survive the backlash. She actively redefined the character for a completely new generation.
She proved that immense talent and emotional presence absolutely trump these outdated animated visual precedents. By enduring that specific type of crucible, she set a brand new bar for how studios will have to handle modern franchise casting moving forward.
And it gave her the momentum to finally step out on her own. Right after The Little Mermaid, we see her actively transitioning away from the Chloe x Halle duo and really establishing her solo stardom.
Yeah, she didn't slow down at all.
Not at all. Later in 2023, she took on a very different kind of role. She starred in the Spielberg-produced musical film The Color Purple, playing young Nettie.
Which was a strategic, brilliant move, transitioning from leading a massive Disney blockbuster to a supporting, yet emotionally pivotal role in a heavy historical musical. It proved her range wasn't just limited to playing a princess.
Right, it showed real depth.
And she contributed heavily to the soundtrack. She performed 4 songs, including an original promotional single called Keep It Movin', which she co-wrote and performed with Felicia Perlampasi.
And didn't that song win an award?
It did. It won a Black Reel Award. It was even shortlisted for Best Original Song at the Academy Awards.
Wow, so she is basically building an absolute fortress of accolades. And this all perfectly tees up her solo music career, because in August 2023, she drops her debut solo single, Angel.
Such a good song.
So good. And it immediately gets nominated for Best R&B Song at the Grammy Awards.
Yeah.
Then she follows that up in March 2024 with In Your Hands, then Because I Love You, in August 2024, which she actually co-wrote with the British singer-songwriter R.A.Y.E.
You can really hear her foundational roots in these solo tracks. The sources note that her deep musical influences really shine through here. She grew up listening to jazz and specifically cites Billie Holiday as a major influence on her vocal phrasing.
We can definitely hear the jazz influence.
Yeah, and it pairs beautifully with her own guitar playing that we talked about earlier. All of this groundwork culminated in her debut solo studio album, Love, or something like it, which released on October 24, 2025.
But here is where we have to kind of shift our lens, because as her solo star was rising to the absolute stratosphere, her personal life was becoming increasingly public and tumultuous.
Right, things were getting very complicated behind the scenes.
Yeah. She began a relationship with the American YouTuber and rapper DDG in December 2021. And then in December 2023, they welcomed their son, Halo.
And bringing a child into the world while navigating the peak of global fame, it just introduces a profound new dynamic to an artist's life.
It creates this really intense split-screen effect. On one side of the screen, you have Halle receiving Glamour's Game Changer of the Year award. She's nominated for Grammys, universally beloved, walking these massive red carpets in custom gowns.
And on the other side.
Right, on the other side of the screen, she is navigating the very messy, highly scrutinized public reality of new motherhood and a rapidly deteriorating romantic relationship.
And we really need to slow down here and look at the complicated reality behind the fairy tale. Because for over a decade, the narrative around Halle has been framed by Disney innocence, or the polished perfection of Beyonce's mentorship.
Yeah, people expect her to be flawless.
The public expects perfection, but the legal developments between late 2024 and early 2025 present a stark, jarring contrast to that polished image.
Right. Let's lay out what the sources confirm.
Hmm.
In October 2024, DDG announced that he and Halle had split after almost 3 years of dating. And initially, it was presented as an amicable separation.
They publicly claimed they would continue to be best friends and just focus on raising their son together.
Right. However, the amicable front fell apart very quickly. Over the following months, the situation escalated into a severe court battle. By May 2025, the sources indicate that Halle was granted a restraining order against DDG.
Which is incredibly serious.
Very. She alleged violence and expressed fear for their baby. And alongside that order, she was granted temporary physical and legal custody of their son.
And DDG took counteractions in court. The filings show he was granted his own temporary restraining order against Halle. He filed a motion seeking sole custody of their son, and he even attempted to legally prevent Halle from leaving the United States with their child, claiming she was a risk to herself and their baby. Now, it's important to note impartially that a judge denied DDG's request to block her from leaving the country pending a further hearing. But we really have to emphasize the sheer cognitive dissonance of this moment in her life.
Yeah, we cannot tie this up with a neat, happy bow.
No, because real human lives just don't work that way.
The duality is staggering.
Yep.
I mean, think about the emotional whiplash. She is actively promoting a highly anticipated debut solo album, an album literally titled Love, or something like it doing press junkets, smiling for the cameras, while simultaneously filing for restraining orders to protect her infant son.
It completely shatters that pristine Disney princess illusion. What it reveals instead is a highly resilient woman dealing with severe, real-world adult consequences while the whole world watches and comments on her trauma.
Yeah, the internet never stops commenting.
Never. And maintaining a public pop star persona while your private life is unraveling requires an unfathomable amount of mental fortitude.
It's heavy. It really is. And it brings us right back full circle to the tension we started with. When you look at the timeline we've just mapped out, by the age of 26, Halle Bailey has already lived 3 distinct lifetimes of industry experience.
She started writing songs at 8 years old. She earned the mentorship of the world's biggest pop star as a young teenager. She faced down a vicious global cultural backlash to redefine one of the most iconic characters in cinema history.
And she survived a highly public, emotionally draining legal battle to protect her child.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder about the future of child stars in the digital age. Unlike the child stars of the 90s, who could occasionally, hide from the tabloids, Halle's generation has to navigate paparazzi, algorithmic hate campaigns, and the Supreme Court.
All while their digital footprint is permanently archived for the public to consume.
Right. We might literally be watching the blueprint for how Gen Alpha will have to manage extreme fame.
When an artist has successfully navigated the absolute peak of manufactured corporate stardom, like the Disney and Parkwood machines, and has also survived the darkest depths of highly publicized personal trauma, what does their art look like when the training wheels are finally off and they are solely in control of their own narrative?
I think that is the exact question we're all going to be watching her answer next. Thanks for listening to Tepeel Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.